It's kind of wet out, so I didn't want to get in there and mess around with my camera, get my camera wet. So I already got this stuff out of here. Like, this is like a little brass padlock. Take that plastic off of there, and that padlock's all brass. And like Cox cable companies and like private contractors that do like cable and internet service. I guess to do cable service. They'll throw away a lot of this aluminum and stuff. This is all good pure aluminum. And you know, you have to just take some of them screws out and stuff. But you know, part of the reason I make these videos is for, you know, there might be some people out there that need to make some money. And see all that wire down there? That's just coaxial cable. There's no copper in that or nothing, and it's basically worthless. You know, you get the tin price for that, and you know, all that stuff in there weighs just a few pounds, and tin is at like 3 cents a pound right now. So everything you see down in that dumpster is worth about 9 to 12 cents. And so I don't even mess with that stuff, and most people don't mess with it because it's just not even worth it. But you know, if you had like a pickup truck, you might want to go ahead and snatch it. But even then, it just gets in the way and it gets tangled up with everything. But when you do find big caches of this stuff, it'll have these. I see, I already got it out. It'll have these ends on them like that. And those are brass. Sometimes they'll be stainless steel, but most of the time those are brass. And so I always want to cut them off. And those are some pretty valuable little guys right there. So you want to cut them off. And I just throw that's coaxial cable. Like when the cable man comes to your place and hooks up cable, that's what that is right there. But you know, if you got cable, like independent contractor cable companies that work with the big cable companies, a lot of times they'll throw away this kind of stuff in their dumpsters. Like the great big cable companies, they probably won't throw away stuff like this. But like the little independent contractors, you know, you might be able to look in the phone book, or you might just offhand know where one's at. But that's a good place to go check if you want to go try to do this. So like if you do it in a truck, you know, you'll want to, or a car, if you do it in a car or a truck, what you want to do to be efficient is just think about all the good places to go, you know, like a giant apartment complex, or like a cable company, independent contractor cable company, or like electricians. You could look in the phone book for electrician companies, businesses, and a lot of time they'll have their stuff locked up. But you know, if they got a dumpster out in the public domain, the electricians, they'll usually keep all the real valuable stuff. But you know, they're liable to be throwing away, you know, $20, $50 worth of stuff in the dumpster, just in like little scraps and stuff they don't want to deal with. So yeah, I mean, like if you do it on a motorcycle, you know, I could just check dumpsters en masse real quick. But if you don't have a motorcycle, you could do it in your car or your truck fairly efficiently. You know, if you just plan out all the good spots, you know, make you a little route and just go run your route, you know. But like on a motorcycle, you know, you can just go hit everything you see, you know, and just get it done real quick. But like on a truck, you wear out your knees and backs just in a matter of weeks, you know. getting in and out of your truck hundreds of times alone. You know, you go do it for a full day, and you'll literally spend 2 or 3 hours just opening your truck door and getting out, you know, or your car door, you know what I'm saying? So if you do it in a vehicle besides a bicycle or a motorcycle, you know, where you can just pull up, look, and leave, you can do it real quick. If you don't have one of that, then you want to plan out your routes. Like see those lights over there? That's that auction house. There's an auction going on in that building right there. And that dumpster you see right in the middle of the screen, I don't know if you can make that out too well. See, it's got its two lids open. That dumpster there belongs to a brick and mortar auction house, and there's a live auction going on in that building right now. And that dumpster, all the stuff that don't sell, they're gonna throw in that dumpster right there. So like an auction house would be a place, if you're in a truck or a car, where you want to just go check that out, you know, and get your route down. You know, all the good places you can just go check where you're liable to score some good stuff. All right, so this is that auction house. I just came across the parking lot, and I can already just look in here and see there's a couple pounds of aluminum. That aluminum pan right there, that pot weighs a couple pounds by itself. Take this deal here. It's got a big heavy motor in it. You can see it right in there. And I'll take the cord off that. And that thing there will go as a dirty motor. Because I'll take this whole pot. That thing will come off there like that. There's like that lid there. The thing weighs a good pound, maybe 2 pounds. That's real heavy aluminum. And it's raining out, and I'm getting my camera wet. So I'm just gonna show you this stuff and then go get it later. But like, some interesting stuff. I'll see what's under here real quick. Nothing. This looks mainly like garbage. There's some good stuff on top. I'm gonna shut the camera off and go get it. But that's probably, you know, there's a couple dollars just laying right there on top. You know, just snatch it up. You know, if you can make $2 in a couple minutes at some other job, you know, you'd be making like $60 an hour. You know, right there. What you're looking at right there, if you could, you know, you gotta go dumpster to dumpster, so that ain't gonna happen. But you know, if you could just pick that little amount right up there every couple minutes, you'd be making, you know, $60 an hour. You know. All right, so I got in there. I jumped in there and got that stuff out. And it turned out to be a lot more just right there on top that just couldn't be seen by the visible eye. Like, see all this here? Every bit of this is aluminum, and it just snapped these handles off of there, and it goes as clean aluminum. So this is actually a pretty valuable little score, because these are like them old kind of pans. They're super thick and really heavy. So that right there weighs about 10 pounds. And this is another probably 2 or 3 pounds. So, you know, you just take those handles off, and that's clean aluminum. And I found this deal here. It's probably not very valuable, but actually looks like something's broke off of it. But I still might find somewhere to set that, because somebody out there might want to have that little thing. It's a nice piece, you know, it's porcelain. So I'll find a spot to set that. I didn't notice it was broken. I probably would have left it in there if I noticed it was broken. But, you know, I'll find a spot to set that. Someone will snatch that up. Then I got these plates here. The Old Curiosity Shop. Underglaze. Made in USA. Those might be worth something. You know, you never know. I'll definitely check them out on the internet. See if they're worth anything. And then over here, found some more stuff. I'll take, you know, cut those cords off, and the rest of that's tin. Actually, this will go as a dirty motor, because it's got a big chunky motor in there. And you could take all that plastic off if you wanted and get a clean motor, but it's not really worth the time. The prices are kind of low right now, so I'll just do that whole thing as a dirty motor and be done with it. Now, unfortunately for me, the area where I live, all the big retail stores, and they use these great big compactor dumpsters, and you know, every time somebody throws something in there, they hit the compact button and squish everything back in there, and it's a scrapper's, dumpster diver's worst nightmare. I'm just at a big modern style strip mall, and all these stores throw all their garbage in here. So a lot of you out there, like in using cars and trucks to dumpster dive, you know, you'll want to go to like the big retail strip malls and stuff and check their dumpsters out. And hopefully you don't live in an area like where I live, where it's just pointless, because you know you can't get anything out of there, and even if you did, it'd be smashed and got garbage from the restaurants, like that restaurant garbage. That's the worst garbage there is. That's just disgusting. So it's just pointless. I don't even come here. You know, just find your spots. You know, just go out looking, and you know, the places you come across where you can score some stuff, you just want to run that route consistently. You know, and that's the main thing, is just get you a route down and run it consistently. You know, like 2 or 3 times a day, take that exact same route. You know, and you'll just find some good places where you can go. You know, because if you have a motorcycle, you can jump on your bike and you can literally hit, you know, every dumpster that's available. You know, but that's too time consuming, and it's just not possible to do in a car or a truck. So just find you a route, hit all the good places, and you know, look in the phone book and try to find some good places. You know, every area is going to be different, but I mainly stick to, you know, local businesses and big apartment complexes and stuff. But you might get lucky where you live. You know, a lot of the places might not be using these yet, but you know, you'll find your way. But the key is, if you're new to this and you want to try it, you know, find a route where there's dumpsters available, and make that your route, and follow that same route around, and do it consistently. Consistency is number one in doing this, you know. And also, oh yeah, when it's raining out's actually a good time to go do it, because there'll probably be other people that do this and they won't want to go do it in the rain. So actually, when it's raining, it is a really good time to go do it, because more than likely any competition isn't going to be out there doing it. And usually, like, the dumpster lids will be closed. Like this one's got one open, but like everything on this side is completely bone dry. And if that second lid was closed, you know, everything in there would be bone dry. You know, so it's not all that bad to do it when it's raining, as long as it's not a you know, like a steady downpour. It's just saturating rain. And when it's got a motorcycle out there, I'd use that. Go scout you a route, do it consistently. If you got a truck or a car, that's really the only thing you can do, is just find you a route and stick to it. You know, maybe find a couple different routes, you know, and run a route a day. You know what I mean? But do each route 2 or 3 times a day. You know, and that's a good way to do it. See that Bed Bath & Beyond right over there? They actually have a normal dumpster, and I get quite a bit of stuff out of there. Actually, my 200 subscriber video, my giveaway video, actually that's where that coffee maker came from. That's a coincidence right there. That Bed Bath & Beyond. And I get quite a bit of stuff out of there, but they generally will cut the cords off their stuff and smash it and break it so no one can use it. But somehow that Starbucks coffee maker, somehow that made it through their process unharmed. But anyways, you know, every night you'll find some stores that don't have those compactors. But you know, you'll find your way around, and just run your route consistently. That's the main thing. Big old monster right there. That's a dumpster diver's worst nightmare. The strip malls and the big retail store locations, they're still worth checking out, because a lot of times there'll be dumpsters that you can look in, and then there's also the big compactor dumpsters. There's another one that's fed from the inside, and you know, I imagine there's probably thousands of dollars worth of stuff in there. And I rarely find anything in these dumpsters. It's like a parking lot cleaner truck dumped their load in there. And then here, I found some good stuff in here before. I think this is one of those Ulta beauty stores that you see on YouTube. A lot of people do videos there. I've found some decent stuff in there before, but I think they got someone that gets all the good stuff out of there before they throw it away. Yeah, there's some other dumpsters. I rarely find anything in those dumpsters over there, but that's worth checking out. Now, not all the stores use those compactor units, but a lot of them will be, all the big national brands. And not all, but mostly. It might be different where you live, but those big national stores, a lot of them, they don't mess around. They just throw it in those big compactors. Now, if you're driving down the street and you see one of these big old dudes that they use for gutting buildings and stuff, these are always worth looking for, you know, as long as it's in the public domain. Let me see if I can climb up here one-handed without breaking my neck. And a lot of times there'll be a lot of like aluminum and copper wire and stuff in these big old things. But there's nothing in here. I've been in here once, and there's probably been other people in here too. It's picked clean, anything good. But this is what you want to check out. You see these things laying around? You know, like a strip mall parking lots and next to buildings and stuff. There's a Pier 1 Imports right there. They actually have an open dumpster I can get in, but they smash all their stuff so no one can use it. And see, there's a bunch of cans right there, but I previously looked at them and they got beer all over them, and I'm wearing gloves and it's already wet, so I'm just gonna leave them sitting for the next person to come along. They might want them. I'm not gonna deal with them right now. I can just smell the beer, how dirty they are. And I don't want anyone's beer saliva on me or my crates, so we'll just leave those set for someone else. But you know, where I live, all those good stores like that, their policy is when they throw stuff out, they just smash it. They smash it so it's not usable. And either that or they got those compactor units. So either way, the retail stores where I live, it's almost pointless to even check them. But we'll go up there and I'm gonna go check it. I have got a few things out of there, but nothing. I did get one really nice mirror once that was semi-broken but still usable. That's like $180, $170 mirror. So that was pretty good, but other than that, I haven't really found out. We'll go check it out. Alright, we're up here at that Pier 1 store. And when it's wet out, you're wearing gloves. I've learned to just use the back of my hand so you don't get your fingers wet and gross and dirty. I just use like the back like that. Just use the back of my hand to open stuff up. And see, this is garbage. I know from experience of looking in here that those bags right there, it's all like packing material, garbage and stuff. See, everything in here is fairly dry, you know, because the lids are closed. So, you know, you go out on a rainy night, it's actually a good night to do it. Like I said, you know, the competition won't be there, most likely. But yeah, it's just a bunch of garbage in there. I just know it's a bunch of garbage. You know, there might be something on the bottom, but I'm not going to dig down there because I already know that they already break all their stuff. So, you know, hopefully you live in an area where stores don't do that. But where I live, they're almost all like this. See bottles like this, that's the good stuff right there. They're real easy to dump out, and generally these things will be clean because there's not like a lip. There's not a lip in there for stuff to get stuck in, you know what I mean? It just all pours out of there. These generally will be you know, real nice and dry and clean, and they're really heavy for aluminum cans, you know. So you see those, you always want to snatch them up. I see like almost every one of these is bone dry. I seen that one had a few drops come out, but a couple drops. But you know, even if there is something in there, you know, you just turn them upside down and they just totally drain. So those are real clean ones. You know, you start picking up beer cans, it gets really gross. But those bottles right there, they're nice because you know they're so heavy compared to other cans. And they're clean, so it's just the best of both worlds. And I'm in a really big apartment complex right now, so you know, I'm making a video about what to do if you're limited to a car or a truck as your vehicle dumpster diving. You know, you hear me say limited to. You know, I'm not dogging anybody out there, but yeah, if your dumpster die for a while, you just, there's just no comparison between having a motorcycle to do it with and a truck or a car, because yeah, it just, you go out in a truck or a car and try to do, you know, 500 dumpsters in a night, you're just not going to do it. I mean, it's just not something you're going to do, you know. But on a motorcycle, it makes it real easy, super efficient, and fast. It's built for doing it quick, you know. But like if you're in a truck or car, just, you know, look at this great big apartment complex. I mean, so you want to hit a place like that. You know, you want to hit all them retail stores, them electricians, auction houses. You know, like small independent contractor cable companies that throw away a lot of their stuff. You know, just, you know, I mean, you know your town, you know where you live. Just as you just go about your daily business, you know, you'll just, if you look, you'll start seeing stuff. You know, you'll start seeing where to go, and you can get your route down and just hit all your good spots and run that route consistently. And I can't say the word consistently enough, because that's what it is. You know, you might go out your first time and hit 50 dumpsters, and you might just find a bunch of garbage and cat poop and just find, you know, maybe a couple cans, and that's it. You know, don't get discouraged. You gotta run either a big route consistently or hit some good spots consistently. But either way, the word consistently is just it's just what you gotta do to find the good stuff. And so another good spot to go is like car detail shops, where they clean people's car, and like all the stuff that's in the car they just throw in a dumpster. Like there's a car detail shop there, and there's one over there, and next to it there's a Hertz rental car business. So in this little general vicinity, there's places that clean out cars and just throw all the stuff away. And like this is just one of the dumpsters here. All these here is and all these here are brass fittings. You know, those are nice little pieces of brass in there. All you gotta do is just pop them clamps off, and a license plate, and some doorknobs, and see, all this stuff here is aluminum. And inside this aluminum, there's some #1 copper wires in there. So there's probably 2 pounds of #1 copper wire in there. And this stuff's real easy to clean out. That's like, I don't know if you ever ate a crab leg or not, but like you get that crab meat out of a crab leg. It's similar. Like you take your snips and you cut this aluminum right here, and you just start pulling on it, and it just, all that copper wire just comes sliding out of there. And so that's actually quite a good find. You can always tell, you know, it'll just be real stiff. If there wasn't nothing in there, it'd be real flexible. But yeah, so car detail shops. Here's some more brass. I'm gonna cut those off of there. You know, it may not look like a whole lot, but you know, actually, this kind of stuff right here really adds up pretty quick. You know, there's probably $2 worth of copper in there, maybe 30 cents of aluminum, and it might be $1 or $2 of brass, and then some tin, and maybe some dirty stainless steel. So you know, it starts adding up pretty good, really. You know. All right, so I'm over here at that car rental place across the street. I looked in here, cleaned out like some rental cars. There's a smashed phone, but see, I'll send that to boardsort.com. It's not worth a whole lot, but you know, there's a pair of Levi's right there. Look at that. Look at that right there. Pair of Levi's. They're in good condition too. Just thrown through the wash once. That's a nice pair of jeans. They look like they might fit me. There's some other clothes in here. I'll just set these clothes like here on the edge of the dumpster like that. Get those underwear out of there. Someone might drive by and see them clothes and come have a look. You know, there's some good clothes. There's a battery for their phone. And a lot of clothes in here. And you know, no one's there gonna get too mad, you know, that you put them clothes there. So No one's gonna really mind about that kind of stuff. I found these pair of Levi's, you know, at the very end of the video, and I don't know if I was in a car or a truck if I'd have ever even came across these Levi's, because you know, it just, on a motorcycle you cover so much more ground. If I was in a car or a truck, I don't know if I would have even, you know, if there would have been enough time for me to even find these. Of course, you know, if I was in a car or a truck, I'd probably skip it a lot of the other dumpsters. I just go to the good places. But